We're going to check out the trailer for The Mandalorian Season 4. The Mandalorian and Grogu. Water. Razor Crest. Somebody help me out here. Isn't that thing supposed to be obliterated? Am I missing something? So I think he's got a new paint job on it. Oh, yes. Got the little pirate scope here. But it has two. I don't understand that. Hey, it's Babu Frick. Or it might be just another one of those species from season 3, because I think they were in season 3. Okay. Sigourney Weaver. I heard she was going to be in this. And you know what? I'm cool with that, because Sigourney Weaver, I just like her so much. But is it too much? I think it might be too much. Okay. This series is just an endless cycle of people telling Grogu no. Like, no, you can't do that. And one of these days, he's just going to get so pissed off and just... The next person to tell him no is going to be in deep trouble. Oh, what was that? Whoa, 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 whoa. Nice kick. I like that. That looked a little bit more energetic. Interesting. What is that? Hey, you know what? I'm always down for another new freaky looking Star Wars alien. Now, were those... Hang on a second. It doesn't look like TIE fighters. But it's so fast, I have to break down by frame. Okay, Grogu can swim. Hey, that looks like, what's his name from Rebels? I mean, it's pretty unmistakably him. Hey, there's all the Babu Fricks and their family. Impressive. Okay. Looks like the Decepticons have arrived to Star Wars. That was only a matter of time. Hey, that was kind of cool looking, actually. I dig that. Wait. Let me see that again. Okay, shot. Oh, and he's got his, for a weapon that looks kind of cheap, it's got some power behind it. Some versatility. What? An AT-AT! Walking alongside a very precarious ledge. Yep. I heard about this scene. That's a cool shot, but now you're showing too much. That's too much. Nah, see, you should have saved that shot for the final movie. We didn't need to show us that. Mandalorian Season 4 in theaters. Hey, he looks friendly.
Good shot, baby.
Okay. My quick takeaways are that it's a little... It seems like they're leaning more into undoing events of the past with, like, for example, the destruction of the Razor Crest. And if you're not familiar with The Mandalorian, then you wouldn't even know that they separated at the end of season 2, and then they were brought back together in the middle of a different show. And then in season 3 of The Mandalorian was a lot of stuff that I don't remember, to be honest, because some of it was a bit forgettable. I did like the stuff with retaking Mandalore, but even that didn't feel like it was fully realized. And so this film is set somewhere in between Return of the Jedi and the sequel trilogy, which is like a 30-year gap. I'm still thinking it's somewhere in that 5+ years after Return of the Jedi. So the Empire's still kind of there, but they're not in full strength. And the show left me more confused than ever before, because you had characters like Moff Gideon who are still trying to keep the Empire alive and kind of bring it back. And then you've got Thrawn also being introduced into the mix. But then you also, somewhere in there, you have the formation of the First Order. And I just like, I'm so confused. So, and I have been trying to follow it because I was so desperate for context about the sequel trilogy, because they give you no context after 30 years that I would, read up on this stuff. But, I have to wonder, like, if this is, I don't see... When I watch this, I don't get a sense of any real stakes. It just feels like more adventure. It feels, and that's why I was kind of jokingly saying, it feels like Mandalorian Season 4. And if that's all it ultimately is, then that's fine, as long as it's good and it's an improvement from Season 3. But that's not something to really be excited about for me, because, and I think most audiences too, because the novelty of the Mandalorian and Grogu together, this funny little pairing, I think it's kind of worn out its welcome in the fan base. How many times are we gonna see Grogu and Mando have a little funny moment together where he's like trying to eat something and Mando stops him? I mean, just in the trailer we just saw that with Sigourney Weaver. So he doesn't seem to talk. He's just this cute puppet, and it's like, all right, it was cool for a while, but at some point you wonder about like the utility of his character. Where can he fit into the bigger picture? Because the fact that he is a puppet, that comes with some limitations. I mean, there was a reason why it made sense for Yoda to be a puppet back in the day, because number one, they didn't have the technology to do anything else. And then when they did the prequels and they showed Yoda being this like crazy good, Jedi warrior flipping around like a crazy monkey, like that was a little jarring, but it made sense that he could do that maybe when he was still at his peak before he was getting too old. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I keep coming back to this thought of like, what is the point of this movie? So anyways, there's not a lot of dialogue. There's not really any clear direction as to like, what is the story here? I understand that's often how they do it with the first trailer, but to me, I just saw it's a bunch of shots of Mando and Grogu doing just random stuff together like I have always seen them do. So I'm like, all right, well, there's that, but I don't know what's supposed to be like especially exciting about that. Now, I mean, it's cool to see some new aliens, some new monsters introduced. I'm always down for that. And the Decepticons edition is pretty cool. Don't they look like Decepticons? I mean, am I wrong here? Am I wrong? Where's that shot? It's like, I mean, that looks like a Decepticon. Or if you're a Helldiver fan, that looks like a, oh my gosh, Devastator. I think that's what they're called. So I'm always down for that. But, ultimately, like, what is that? Does that matter? Because Star Wars, if Disney has not had a problem with their handling of this franchise, it is their ability to deliver cool looking aliens. Like they're plenty good at that. That was never the problem, right? That was never the problem. Now, that's not to say literally anything they churn out that's an alien is cool, but yeah, I mean, it seems like it just feels like a highlight reel for the show. I mean, for all I know, some of this stuff already happened. If I hadn't even seen the show, I wouldn't know, I wouldn't even know if this stuff was new. I'm like, wait, didn't they already do something like that before? There's a few shots that are like, oh, that's familiar. So anyway, sorry about that. But I look at this and the optimistic side of me wants this to be good. And because it's handled by Jon Favreau, excuse me, I had to burp. There's a part of me that thinks it could be good. But the problem, I think, ultimately is like the premise of it. You know what I mean? It's the same problem I have with so many modern Star Wars shows and movies. The premise of the story is not especially compelling, right? And that's what you have to get right from the outset. Like that, you can, I mean, because that's how they, I don't know if, you guys know this as well as I do. When you pitch a movie idea or story idea, you keep it simple, right? But your idea needs to be pretty good, and then you can expand on it. But this just feels like something we've kind of seen before. And I'm not trying to dismiss like the effort being put into it, but even from the visual effects and the shots and things like that, the show has looked pretty good. And there's not a whole lot I'm seeing in here that is that much better than what we've seen in the shows. I mean, this doesn't, you know what I mean? And that, I think, is part of the problem with Disney Star Wars, is that they are not innovating enough. And I know part of the reason they're not doing that is because they're churning out too much, or they did for too long. And so you can't rush quality that, to that extent and expect it to be, raising the bar every time. But anyways, guys, and also I will say, just being completely honest, I'm a little tired of this era between Return of the Jedi and the sequel trilogy, because it's so backwards the way they did it with ever since Disney took over Star Wars. They started with the sequel trilogy pretty much, and then finished that, and then they started going back and filling in the gaps. And now that the sequels are done and they've done all this damage, and we have so many questions and very unsatisfying answers to those questions that they're filling in, it just makes it, to me, it's like the more you fill in those gaps, the worse it gets. Like something has to be done to the sequels to make this gap in between more tolerable. Because when you watch this, you know where it leads. You know what I mean? You know where all this ends up. It ends up with the First Order, ends up with the Final Order, ends up with Palpatine coming back, it ends up with, no matter what you do, it's going to end up going to the same era and same main storyline. So like, I know they've been putting out comics and shows and clips and things like that, you know, books, but ultimately, you know, if it's a bad idea, don't expand on it. Don't expand on it. It's just like Angela said in The Office, you're expanding on your worst idea. And frankly, Disney Star Wars, your worst ideas started with the sequel trilogy, because that story is not a story that has any real depth or cohesion or complements anything that came before it. It's frustrating to sit and think about, and you've left putting fans like us in a weird spot because we're being forced to accept this story, and then we all know where it leads, and so, you know, I don't know, maybe we should retcon the sequels. But anyways, guys, that's just my thoughts. I don't know. I wasn't really super excited for this movie anyways, but I mean, I'll be happy to go back to the theater and see a Star Wars movie again, because I'm just so tired of Star Wars television. Like, I don't know what they were thinking. They just leaned so much into it and took it to an extreme. I mean, they've been from one extreme to the other. First, they put out too many movies, and then they put out too many shows, and they weren't putting out any movies. And I really feel like Star Wars belongs on the big screen. I think that's the only way you're going to get fans back. I don't think it's going to be through a bunch of TV shows, because it becomes filler very quickly, and they've demonstrated that they don't have any kind of consistency with these TV shows, or the movies for that matter. But you have to plan things out, and that's what we need more of. And this isn't an indication that they're doing that. This is just like, you know, it's like that. I don't know if y'all watch Drew. I think his name's Drew Gooden. He's really funny. He made a video about how much more Star Wars do we need, and I watch this very, very often because it's really great and to the point. Like, he's so on point about it. And in that video, he was asking, you know, basically, like, how much more of this do we need when you're just gonna give us filler all the time and, you know, nostalgia. It's like, you know, he was like, remember this character? Remember this character? Remember this character? Remember this character? Oh, but what about this character? I mean, it's just endless. And that even wouldn't be that bad if they just did something with them. But it just ends up being shallow nostalgia that, you know, the novelty wears off. So anyways, all right, that's it. Bye. Nope, no more about this. Just, if you want to comment, you know, go to the comments. All right, that's all I got. I don't know. I wash my hands of this for now, guys. So back to topics that interest me more.